Namasri Yatirajaya Vivekanandasuraye Sachit Sukha Swarupaya Swamine Tapaharini. So the topic for today's discussion is Mind a Rebellious Goblin. So every individual, whoever wants to control the mind, they will experience mind definitely as a rebellious goblin. It won't listen to you. It doesn't yield that quickly. It is a formidable enemy for most of the people, except for enlightened human beings. For all others, mind is an enemy. And that is actually the source of suffering, source of all mischief. And mind is very adept in this craft of deception. It is an adept in this craft of deception. We are being cheated on and off. We don't understand. We don't understand it because it is very adept. It doesn't want us to understand. We know actually chittameva hi samsaro. Mind alone actually is bondage. What is freedom? Freedom from the mind is freedom. What is bondage? Mind is bondage. When you have the mind means you are in bondage. When there is mind, there will be body. They go together. The body is only hardware, the external manifestation of the mind. Mind and body in that way are inseparable. So whoever has the mind, they will have the body also. So body actually, there is no evolution in that. It just follows the nature's laws. Spirit is eternally perfect. So all our struggle should be only to evolve. To evolve what? The subtle body, or linga sarira, or sukshma sarira. So the difference between one individual and another individual is only in the subtle body, sukshma sarira. There is not much difference between the gross body of one individual and another individual. Everybody will have 2 eyes, 2 ears, 2 hands, 2 legs. Though you see some variation, but that is not real difference or variation. But in the subtle body, there is a huge difference between individual and individual. One individual could be almost a god, a sage. Another individual could be like almost animal, very close to an animal, just follows instincts almost. There is such huge difference between one human being and another human being. This way, culture, religion, philosophy, this personality development, the training matters so much here. All these become important only at a human level. At an animal level, we don't talk about them. The difference between the subtle body, the mind of one tiger and the mind of another tiger, absolutely there is not much difference. The subtle body, the mind of one dog and the mind of another dog, there is not much difference. But when it comes to humans, there is a huge difference between the mind of one individual and the mind of another individual. The way you understand things, the way you perceive things, the way you look at things, your choices, your objectives, your aims, they all depend upon your tendencies, samskaras. Some you have inherited from past birth and some you cultivate here. All they together determine your real nature. All they together determine the subtle body. So the evolution only pertains to the subtle body. Of course, unfortunately, the human evolution is painfully slow because 90% of the population, or even more than that, have not figured out actually what is the ultimate goal of life, objective of life. They are still struggling with the goal itself, the right goal, the apt goal that we need to have before us once we come here as human beings. That itself actually is not, clear with the majority of the population. So in fact, we, as Khalil Gibran says, the whole of the mankind, whole of humanity, is moving from ex-eternity to ex-eternity. We have lost the paradise. We have lost the paradise and we are actually searching for the key now. Now the door to paradise. So we were in nirvana. We have lost it now and we will regain our nirvana, freedom again. Just a matter of time. So from infinity to infinity we are traveling. From infinity now we are eternity to eternity, infinity to infinity. We are traveling. So we have to regain our kingdom. We have to regain our lost paradise. We have to regain our spiritual nature. That is mukti, that is nirvana. So the present state of existence is bondage because we have the mind and the mind is filled with cravings or desires. A mind that is filled with cravings or desires is the source of trouble, is the source of all mischief. There is no other source of suffering for any human being in the world other than his or her own mind. So mind is a rebellious goblin. Once you understand that it's a goblin, you are cohabiting a goblin, you are living with a goblin, you are living with a ghost, you will become alert automatically. Okay? Again, 90% of the population, they don't know that actually their mind is only playing the mischief and they are cohabiting a ghost. You are keeping a ghost by your side. At least if you have this understanding, you will be watchful. You will be watchful. You will observe your own mind. You will observe your own mind. It's not that easy to observe the mind because it's very fast, it's very swift. It doesn't allow you to observe it. Because we are so intensely identified with the mind, we think we are the mind. When I am the mind, where is the question of observing the mind? It doesn't arise at all. So most of the people just, the tendencies that they have inherited from the past lives, whatever the samskaras that they have, and those find expression, then there is friction automatically. But if you can give a conscious expression to your thought, conscious expression to your emotion, then you are a beautiful human being. But to give a conscious expression to thought, only at a human level it is possible. Okay? For that only the spiritual sadhana is necessary. Once you embark on the sadhana, you will find that it's not that easy. This mind is not a simple thing. Okay? It's a rebellious goblin. You want it actually to be obedient to you, but it rebels. Okay? It is utterly disobedient. And it tries to frighten you. Okay? It doesn't want you to embark on the sadhana itself. So all this will happen. But you need to persist. So you have to first weaken the mind as it were. Weaken the mind means the mind today is a kind of, it has become very strong. Very strong because it's not just one identification, multiple identifications, not just identification with the body, because once you identify with the body, you want to give comfort to the body, you want to enjoy things to the body, and so you acquire things. We identify with all those things. So because you have identified with so many things, the mind becomes very strong and very powerful. And that's the reason dispassion or renunciation is insisted upon. Dispassion or renunciation means slowly you will disentangle the mind from all these identifications. This is not yours, this is not yours, this is not yours, this is not yours. You keep on telling it like that. So the mind actually detached from all the things. And then finally you say to the mind, this body is also not yours. You tell this to this. And then it becomes easy for you to control. So in Yoga Vashishta, the first prakarana is like Vairagya prakarana. The first is on dispassion. You know the story. Rama was not interested to be coronated. Rama actually had that spiritual awakening. Then actually Vashishta Maharshi and Vishwamitra come there. And why, O Rama, you are like this? Why you have become so indifferent to all the things of this external world? Then in the beginning Rama was reticent. He was not responding. He did not want to reveal his mind to all. And then when Vashishta and Vishwamitra ask him, then he opens up his mind and tells that I am not interested in anything of this world, including this body. Sariram nami rochate, he says. I don't get even fascinated by this physical body, he says. It's full of defects. So he will narrate the defects of time, defects of body, defects of old age, defects of childhood, defects of youth, defects of, mind. Everything is, entire samsara is full of defects and full of imperfection. Wonderfully analyzes things. And at the end of that Vairagya Prakarana, the sages, including Narada Maharshi, Vashishta and Vishwamitra, they congratulate him. They congratulate Rama for his wonderful exposition on Vairagya and dispassion. And this is the state of mind actually, because they were sages, they knew that actually through dispassion only you can have self-realization. So when Rama spoke like this, they congratulated him, says that, Aho bata kumarena kalyana gunasalini vagukta paramodara vairagya rasa garbhini Aho bata kumarena. So they were with great affection, the sages actually were telling to Rama, and they were talking among themselves. They congratulated him. Kumarena kalyana gunasalini. He spoke the words that will actually bring kalyana, that will bring goodness. Kalyana gunasalini vagukta paramodara. He has spoken of the excellent words. Vairagya rasa garbhini. All his words, all his language is full of vairagya, full of dispassion. But dispassion is not a good word for us, people who are in the world and who are actually aspiring for worldly things, okay, worldly achievements. Okay. But there actually the sages were congratulating Rama and says full of dispassion, vairagya rasa garbhini. So they were delighted to hear these words from Rama. Yes, Rama, your understanding is correct. This world is full of defects. You cannot have true peace and happiness here. It's not possible. So they say that asmin uddhama dauratnya daiva nirmana nirmite dvijendra dagda samsare sarohi atyanta durlabha. Asmin uddhama dauratnya daiva nirmana nirmite. It's God who has conceived this samsara, and God himself is saying that this samsara you cannot have true happiness. Then why did he create? He created like that. He is only telling. Uddhama dhauratmya, a terribly wicked. Daiva nirmana nirmite. What beautiful language they use. Dijendra, dagda samsare. This samsara scorches people. It gives you such pain. You know, in the midday sun. You stand in this midday sun in hot summer, in April, May months. How you feel? The samsara is like that. Vijendra dagda samsare, sarohi atyanta durlabha. To get some essence, to get some peace, to get some joy is very difficult. That's what their conclusion is. But this mind is such, it craftily deceives you. All the time it advertises you. You go for this, go for that. That will bring you so much of happiness. This will bring you so much of happiness. So you'll go for it. Do you really get that much of happiness? No. Go for it. You struggle for it, great effort you put there, and then you get something. But the promised, the expected joy it has not brought. Disappointment. And now again advertisement goes on. For other things, one after other, life after life, life after life. So you wonder why I have expected this much of joy and happiness, but I have not got. But that is the nature of the mind. If it is not there, it's not there. This world means imperfection. Time and space means imperfection. There cannot be two perfections, right? There is only one thing that is perfect, that is soul or consciousness or God. That is infinite. And everything else, that projection is an appearance, that's what they say. It's only vibhuti, a manifestation. An inferior modification, Yoga Vasishta says. So there cannot be two perfections. If the world is perfect, then there should not be any misery, unhappiness in the world. The very fact of unhappiness, and also it is temporary. Because it is temporary, because it is transient, or rishis say that it's imperfect. There is something which is permanent, which is eternal, that is perfect, that is consciousness in God. And that consciousness is adhisthana, the substratum on which actually all this projection has happened. So, we being the part of Prakriti now, part of the created world, and we need to seek the source of the creation. And that should be the goal or objective of life. So everything else actually will bring only misery. But we understand after many experiences. One birth of experience is not sufficient for majority of the people. Birth after birth we experience things. After many births, bahunam janmanam ante jnanavan mam prapadyate. We deeply reflect on the nature of things. Our discrimination gets awakened, as it were, the faculty of discrimination. Is this world real? Can I have real happiness here? Then you reflect, you ponder, you deliberate, and slowly then I understand, no, this is Maya, this is bondage. There must be something else, there must be something higher. So I'm here to seek that higher, but I have forgotten to seek that higher, the highest. And that's why actually I'm caught up in this world of transmigratory cycle. Let me seek the highest. So desire arises in the mind. Let me seek the truth. Who am I? Why am I here? Where will I go after death? When these questions arise in your mind and you seriously pursue those questions and want to get answer to those questions, real spiritual life begins. Janma mrityu jara dukkham anuyanti punah punaha vimrishanti na samsaram pashavaha parimohitaha. Janma mrityu jara dukkham, again and again actually, anuyanti punah punaha. So again you suffer, vimrishanti na samsaram, but you don't deliberate, you don't reflect. Pashavaha parimohitaha. So these people who are, because that means discrimination faculty you are not using means you are deluded, parimohitaha. Deluded pashavaha. Yoga Vasishtha uses the language pashavaha for human beings. If you don't use your discrimination, you are as good as an animal. What distinguishes human beings from animals is this faculty of discrimination. If this is not used, if you don't reflect on the nature of things, if you don't reflect on the nature of experiences, when suffering comes, you don't analyze the nature of suffering. Why should I suffer like this? One experience, another experience, another experience. But if you repeatedly keep suffering just like same thing, suffering after suffering, suffering after suffering, maybe in between there is a little happiness. That is actually only temptation. A few drops of happiness God has kept, and Swamiji beautifully says it. The world has become all the more hideous with a few dashes of goodness. These few dashes of happiness, few drops of happiness, a few drops of joy, that actually makes us get deluded again and again. Had it not been for these few drops of happiness, a little goodness in the world, everybody would develop dispassion, everybody would come to the truth quickly. But God has put a bait, as it were, a temptation, that's called Maya. And we struggle again and again. After all, sometimes, we think actually, why did God create this world, such a bad world, imperfect world? Swamiji also said that I could have done a better creation. He was so disgusted, seeing the imperfection in the world, so imperfect, grossly and utterly imperfect, everywhere suffering and everywhere misery. Buddha saw the world like that. He saw it as if it is on fire, and Swamiji also saw it, the world is on fire. Because everybody's misery has become his misery. You could identify with the suffering of the entire mankind. You just see the plight of that individual. Definitely, he can't get sleep right. Our own suffering of our own family, we are not able to take and we are not able to bear. If an individual has to identify with the suffering of all human beings and then experience the world, naturally, they feel the world as if it is on fire. In fact, that is the truth. Why we don't feel the other suffering as much as we feel our own suffering? Because our hearts are not that tender. Buddha's heart was different, Vivekananda's heart was different. Those hearts would become extremely tender at the suffering of the mankind. And this way they would come forward to enlighten the people, to tell the people about the truth and to take the people towards the truth. To help the people with enlightenment, they would struggle, they would endeavor, they would preach. So they saw the world as full of suffering and full of defects. Sri Ramana Maharshi told from a mythological story, a story from the mythology. Once there was a heated debate between Murugan Subramanian and Brahma, creator. So the Kumaraswamy Murugan argued with Brahma, you have created such a defective world. People are full of jealousy, full of envy, quarreling, all the time, talking ill of each other. Why there is so much of misery, so much of suffering? Why have you created such a defective world? But Brahma defended, world means defection, world means imperfection. There cannot be two perfections, there is only one perfection. I have not done a bad job, I have done a reasonably good job, he said, Brahma. But Kumaraswamy did not agree. He did not agree and he argued with him. And then a fight ensued between the two. Murugan Kumaraswamy overpowered Brahma and he imprisoned him. I will do a better creation. You have not done a good creation. Then Brahma's creation he dissolved and then went about creating his own world. Perfect world he wanted to create. Perfect world where there is no affliction, where there is no suffering. So he wanted to create and tried and perfect world, but nothing happened. The sun and moon that he created, but they were not moving. Only jnanis were their self-established souls, absolutely desireless. So no commotion, only consciousness. No commotion in the world. Absolutely tranquil, equilibrium, right? World means disequilibrium. World means commotion. And then actually Shiva came there and he asked Murugan, what are you doing? Why have you imprisoned Brahma? He has done a bad job. He has created such an imperfect world. And not able to see everywhere people are quarreling, full of jealousy and full of envy. Then Shiva said, no, then tell me what you have created. Where is your creation? Then Kumaraswamy told him, this is my creation. Where is your creation? There is no movement in it. Sun and moon, everywhere, everybody is there where they are. Absolutely no movement in your creation. The sages were meditating and they are establishing the equilibrium. You have not done anything. Then Kumaraswamy, Murugan understood that creation means imperfection. Mind means imperfection. Mind means Maya. It's not possible. There cannot be two perfections. Then the question arises, why did God create the world? Many times we have discussed it. It's only world appearance Yoga Vasishta says again and again. We say the sky is blue, but the sky is not really blue. It appears blue. We say the world, but it's not world, it's only world appearance. It's a projection of the mind. In deep sleep, the world is not there. Only mind comes, the world comes. So what you need to do is, you need to reflect on the nature of the mind, nature of this goblin. And when you reflect on this goblin and wants to conquer it and annihilate it, control it, subdue it, no, it rebels. It rebels. Because it has become a kind of habit. We have pampered it for so many births. We have nurtured the ghost. We have made it so strong. And suddenly we want to get away with it. Go away, go away. I don't want you. You are the source of trouble. You are the source of mischief. No, you have understood. No, nicely it is established in your house now. You have provided shelter to it all these days. You have provided embodiments to it. And now suddenly you are asking it, get away from me. You won't go. You know Kambal Chodtanai story? And I narrated Kambal Chodtanai. It's like that. Somebody actually was watching, a flowing river from a distance from the bank. Then he saw a black object actually floating on the river. He thought actually it's a blanket. He was a good swimmer. He entered into the river and swam near the object, and then he took hold of that dark blanket. But to his dismay, it's not blanket, it's a bear, Balu. Okay, now he has a thought actually it's a blanket and he embraced it. And when he came to know that it is bear, he wanted to get rid of the bear and he wants to come out of its embrace. But you know Balu, how it embraces. It gives you a warm hug. Okay, nicely it embraces you, it doesn't leave you. But now you want to get away with it, but you can't. Our condition is more or less like that. Now you want to get away from the mind, but it won't go. Because for so many births, for so many lifetimes, you have provided the comfort to that mind. It's finally nicely established, firmly rooted. So naturally it rebels, because it has become habituated to that kind of comfort that we have provided. And so you have to wrestle with it. You have to cajole it like a small boy. If a small boy doesn't eat food, what mother does? Simply cajoles it. You take my child, take my child, take my child. So like that, you have to cajole the mind. Sometimes you have to, mother sometimes will be harsh with the child also. She'll beat a little. Okay, like that also you have to do with the mind. You have to cajole it. Now and then actually you have to chastise it. Okay, you may have to beat it also. So it doesn't yield that quickly. It's a little rebellious by nature. It's very petulant. So, but it becomes easy to control the mind, to bring it under control when you have dispassion. What is mind? Notions, concepts, judgments, opinions. So these notions and concepts only create mind, memory, cogitation. Manana matrameva. Mano manana, this cogitation only mind. If there is no cogitation, there is no object. How the object is created? Only through cogitation the object is created. How do we experience the world? Where do we experience the world? We experience in the mind. What is happening in the mind? This manana is taking place. Constantly the mind thinks about the objects. Constantly. That is its job, that is its function. When you make the mind stop this cogitation, mind disappears. Sans cogitation, sans manana, the mind cannot exist. It is not there. Its function is cogitation. And constantly it cogitates on objects. You just make the mind Free from cogitation, the mind disappears. It's no mind. It's dead mind. Then you are nirvana. You are mukti. What it is doing, we are not actually analyzing the mind. That's why self-inquiry, inquiring into the nature of the mind, the nature of our experience of the world, it is happening in the mind because of the cogitation. Mano manana nirmana matrameva jagatrayam sarvamusrujya shantatma swatmani eva nivashyasi. Yoga Vasishta, because of the cogitation of the mind, the jagat is created, the world appearance is created, world appears. Sarvamusrujya shantatma, so just to get rid of this cogitation, swatmani eva nivasyashi, get established in your own self, O Rama. Utpatti prakarana, creation from Yoga Vasishta. Mano manana nirmana matrame, through cogitation of the mind, in the mind, a world is created, the objects are created. Objects are not there really out in the world. There is no physical world outside other than the cogitation of the mind. What is the proof? Deep sleep state is the proof. In deep sleep, when the mind is quiescent, when the mind is tranquil, do we have the world? The world is not there. So only it is cogitation that creates the world. So this evolution of the subtle body actually is the evolution. There is no evolution in the physical body, it just follows the nature's laws. There is no evolution in spirit or consciousness or self, it is eternally perfect. All this happens only, all this endeavor, philosophy, religion, spirituality, sadhana, selfless service, selflessness, we talk about only just to transform the subtle body. And there are three kinds of minds that we have discussed in the Bhagavad Gita also, it's beautifully described, tamasic mind, rajasic mind and sattvic mind. And go and tell about all these spiritual concepts to a tamasic individual, he doesn't understand it, he doesn't relish this knowledge also. They don't consider this as knowledge. In a tamasic individual, what happens? The mind cogitates on objects. He has desires, she has desires. Desires, and he wants to have the objects, he wants to enjoy the objects, but still he doesn't exert. He doesn't put himself in action because there is hardship in every action. Okay, anything that you want to achieve in life, something big you want to achieve, you want to become a rich man, you want to acquire properties, you want to become, attain name and fame. A lot of trouble, right? Interacting with people, fulfilling the goals, worldly ambitions. So much of friction is there in the world. So much of peacelessness you have to bear. Trouble is there, right? The tamasic individual, he wants all the things of the world, but doesn't exert, doesn't, get into action because there is friction, because there is trouble in action. So desires are there, but he doesn't exert. This is why many people are finding it difficult in today's families. In every family, there is one tamasic individual. Parents want him to do something, he doesn't want to do anything. But does that mean that actually he is establishing dispassion like Rama? He is very close to nirvana? Not at all. He wants all the things of the world, but he doesn't exert. He doesn't want to put himself in action because dealing with people, you have to work hard. But he doesn't have that will to work hard. This is tamasic state, where you are very close to animal. And the next state is Rajestic State. The individual is highly self-centered, very ambitious, very industrious, very hard-working, but self-centered. Day and night he struggles, he wants to achieve, he wants to prove himself to the world. Majority of the population today, we are tamasic, you don't survive. So there are vast number of people, and a good percentage of people who are rajasic, very ambitious, very industrious, very hard-working. They acquire things of the world and they want to enjoy it for themselves. Good, better than tamasic state. That in the process, definitely some friction, some bitter experiences, some sweet experiences. Both everybody has to encounter. You have some bitter experiences, some sweet experiences. If the bitter experiences, percentage increases, then sometimes he might come to sattva and then think, why should I suffer this much? Then the reflection begins and he may think, what is the nature of the world? But in a sattvic individual, he has a different kind of mindset. What he does is, he will reflect on the nature of the experiences. He will reflect on the nature of the world, why there is suffering, what is the nature of me, who is enjoying and who is suffering, what is mind. These are subjective dimension. He only will be able to turn inward. Kaschid dhiraha pratyagatmanamaikshat avrutta chakshu amrutatvamichan. Upanishad says, you must be hero to turn your attention inward. That's why I said mind, a rebellious goblin. Because to handle this goblin, to look at this goblin, and to subdue it. It's not a simple thing. It's easy to engage, to get engaged in external action in the world outside. But to turn inward and to deal with our own mind is not a simple thing. You want to sit for meditation, how much meditation we can do. Then you understand how restless our mind is. Swamiji says if you can stop the gyrations of the mind even for 1 second, you have achieved something great in life. 1 second if you can still the mind consciously. In deep sleep state, actually stilling of the mind is happening. Mind becomes quiescent, mind becomes quiet. But consciously, through your self-effort, through meditation, 1 minute if you can stop, 1 second, if you can stop all the gyrations of the mind, you will have a glimpse of nirvana. You will have a glimpse of that infinite state beyond the mind. And thereafter, you are not the same individual. Because you have seen it, you have gotten the taste of it, and then you will embark on the spiritual journey seriously. You will relish it. Nothing of this world will interest you because you have seen that. Through the window, you have seen the infinite now. And thereafter, you will not pay attention to this world. You don't care it. Let me conquer the mind. Beyond the mind lies the infinite. Let me have the infinite. You will become truly ambitious. That individual is a sattvic individual where he will work upon himself. Where he understands that happiness is a state of mind and nothing to do with the objects of the world. Rama's mind was like that. It is a sattvic state of mind. Not that you don't have the capacity to attain things of the physical world, but now you understand that whatever may be the kind of wealth that you possess, you may acquire all the best things of the world, creature comforts, but still they will not be able to make you really happy. You understand it from within. And so, you understand the nature of bondage. So long I remain a slave of my mind, real happiness is only a dream. You understand that. And so, you turn your attention inward. Then you want to conquer the volition, sankalpa, desire. Desire creates the mind. Let me conquer the desire and see. That's actually a state of no mind. When the desire is not there, it's a state of no mind. And then it's absolutely quiet. It's a bliss. It is ananda, ananda, ananda. That ananda, that peace which cannot be expressed in words. That happiness and that peace, nobody could explain it in words and nobody will be able to explain it in future too. That has to be experienced and known by experience only. So, this way actually spiritual masters also, when they take disciples, they don't take everybody and anybody. Tamasic individual, they don't take as a disciple. Okay. Somebody who has multi-layered ignorance, 100 layers thick ignorance, who will take the trouble of clearing all the layers through experience actually. Okay, you reduce the layers and come to me when you have only 3 or 4 layers of ignorance, then it becomes easy to work upon you. And Swami Vivekananda, when he was a teenager, when he used to go to Sri Ramakrishna Paramahamsa, he used to take all his friends also to Sri Ramakrishna. To give some spiritual instruction to this guy also, he would ask his guru. And Sri Ramakrishna would look into the mind of that person. No. He says, you are bringing all this trouble to me. You only come, he said. You only come, you don't bring all these people. Why? Because Sri Ramakrishna could see that individual. The layer of thickness. A dark layer. A very thick layer of ignorance actually is there in the individual. A lot of desires for material enjoyment. A lot of desire for creature comfort is there in the individual, and so he will come to spirituality. Kalena Atmani Vindati. Nobody will be forsaken forever. One day you will become God, but not immediately. The individual is not prepared for spiritual life as yet. Don't ask me to waste my energies upon this individual. And at the time, Vivekananda himself was not knowing how pure he was, but Sri Ramakrishna could know Vivekananda. Purest gem, absolutely no trace of worldliness in my child, my Naren, the purest of the pure. And that's why Sri Ramakrishna would take such delight in the presence of Naren, because his dispassion was total. But afterwards, you have seen and we have known that Swamiji, he took sannyasa in the most trying circumstances when the family was in distress, but still he could understand because of the past samskara, because he was a Siddha Purusha by birth. The world is full of sorrow and full of misery. There's no point in wasting your energies. Today, unfortunately, most of us people are like that. We are investing in Maya and we are expecting to gain peace. Not possible. Heavily investing in Maya. All our scriptures talk about don't invest in Maya so much. A little investment is okay, but total life actually you are investing in Maya. Understand? Then afterwards we wonder why I don't get the peace and happiness that I really long for. No, it is not there, first of all, to get. If it is there, you can get it. The majority are like that, I am also like that. No. But you need to have that discrimination. You reflect on the nature of things. Wisdom comes. Wisdom dawns on you. We have so many such sages and saints in this culture. who have become perfect. So we can study their lives and we can take inspiration from their lives. The study of the objective world, the physical world, occupies our complete mind, complete lives. How much of investigation we are doing into the external world. What our sages have done is just they have dismissed it as mere appearance. Mind born. So drop the mind, world disappears. You are in nirvana. Simple. Such a simple message. The world of variety, the world of duality and differentiation. It's only appearance. Appearance in the mind. So why don't you focus on yourself? And why don't you try to find out the root of the mind? Suffering ceases once for all. You will go beyond the cycle of samsara, cycle of life and death. So, investing in this external world will not fetch the real dividend. Ultimately, there is old age. Ultimately, there is a death. The two goes. Sometime back we discussed the three goes. Disease, old age and death. These are the three goes that we have to handle. We all have to face these three goes. Not easy to handle them. For nobody is easy to handle these three goes. Together they come. Right? Together they come. Before they come, if you conquer this one ghost that is mine, you are in spirit. Old age will not trouble you. Disease will not trouble you. Body itself is a disease, you have understood. You transcended the body. Old age affects only the body. Disease affects only the body. Death affects only the body. But you have transcended the body. Where is suffering? Nirvana. So that is the possibility we all have. In the Yoga Vasishta, there is a beautiful story, the story of Vitahabhya. The story of Vitahabhya, that sage got established actually in self-realization. And when he got established in self-realization, he was sitting in a cave. Years passed. Afterwards, actually, he came back to normal consciousness, but the body didn't get destroyed. Rama asks, so how is that actually? This sage, body was not eaten up by worms and vermin. Then Vasishta answers, Sri Ramakrishna's life also it happened. For 6 months he was in samadhi, nothing happened. Absolutely correct. Time disappeared. Normal body without food for 3 days actually it would fall down. But 6 months, absolutely. So the time disappeared for Vitahabhya and body didn't get destroyed. And Rama asks why it was not eaten up by worms, why it did not get decomposed. So when you transcend the mind, actually the body becomes stiff like a stone. So no bacteria will decompose that body. The body will be preserved just like that. So Vitahabhya, after many years, he returned back to normal consciousness and he got up. When he got up and looked around, years passed. So that was the question Rama had, and then Rama asks. Vasishta says that afterwards, after he became enlightened, he comes back to normal consciousness. Then all the noble qualities like friendliness, kindness, and compassion came to him. Rama asked innocently again. Then, when he has transcended the mind, when he has merged the mind in Brahman, how come that all these qualities like friendliness and kindness and compassion arise? Where do they arise? Mind itself is dissolved. Then Vasishta says there are two states possible. One is the state of no form. One actually the state of form. Sri Ramakrishna also used to talk about this. So Shankaracharya had kept the ego of, knowledge, he says. A trace of ego they keep. It's like burnt rope. What is the nature of the mind of the individual after self-realization? It's like burnt rope. It won't have the strength to bind you anymore. So it doesn't entangle you in karma. Because the volition actually is completely burnt. Only a semblance of volition, a semblance of ego will remain just as long as the prarabdha lasts. And so that Vitahabhya case also same thing happened. Till he becomes disembodied, till he actually, he dies. He leaves the body and the mind, there will only be a semblance of mind. There will be that semblance of mind. Using that semblance of mind, they do all good to the world. After enlightenment, Vivekananda did so much good to the world. Sri Ramakrishna did so much good to the world. Ramana Maharshi kept the body. He said, it will float according to prarabdha. Why should I terminate? He could have terminated. Absolutely, there was no need for him with the body because he was experiencing the spirit. But he said, let prarabdha take care of it. It will float according to prarabdha. So, what was their state of mind? The mind is dissolved. When the mind is dissolved, how body can last, you may ask. But mind is not totally dissolved. A lesty is a semblance of the volition, a semblance of ego sense they keep just to keep the body floating till the body floats till the prarabdha. So that was Rama's question, and then Vasishta says, so when you become indifferent to pain and pleasure, praise and blame, opposites, happiness and misery, and penury and opulence. Something comes, nothing of this world of pairs of opposites will affect that individual. Nothing of this world will disturb the tranquility and quiescence of the mind of that individual. Then you can say that individual is established in the self. Then you can say that individual is self-realized. And then Rama asks a beautiful question, actually, what is the seed of this universe? What is the seed of the mind? And also, what is the seed of that mind? How does the mind arise in the first place? And then Vasishtha says there are two reasons. There are two causes. One is prana. When there is this vibration, spanda we say, there is imagine actually, this analogy I think will make you understand things, make you things clear easily. Because there is this tranquil ocean, absolutely tranquil. Okay? Suddenly actually a wave started forming. How does the wave form? There must be wind. If there is no wind is also absolutely quiescent. There is no movement in the wind, and then there cannot be any wave. When there is a little wind, and the wave is created on the tranquil ocean. Like that, this wind called prana creates the wave called mind in that infinite consciousness. The infinite now becomes the finite, as it were. This prana, when did it start? The spanda has started. There is vibration, there is a little movement in the wind, and then the wave created. When before that, there was no wind was absolutely still, absolutely there is no wave, and it's only tranquil ocean, only consciousness and only consciousness. So in that consciousness, infinite consciousness, suddenly there is a vibration, prana, and this prana actually has created, mind. This prana created the mind. That wind created the wave. This mind is like this wave. Now actually you are attached to the form and name. And then because you are attached to the form and name, the world becomes real for you. You have forgotten your infinite existence. Paradise is lost for you. The memory of the infinite is lost with us. So the infinite thing is actually not the question of memory. Only when you transcend the mind, you experience the infinite. But before the mind came into existence, we were that infinite. That memory is totally lost with us. Not even a little awareness of it. If the little awareness of it is there, you will long for it. You want to gain it again. But now you have totally forgotten that. And that's the reason it becomes difficult for people to seek the truth consciously. If you had this memory intact, a little of it at least, then because you would long to go back to that infinite. This is the problem. We are stuck as it were in Maya. We have come from the infinite, but again to go back to the infinite, we are not making that much of effort because we don't know what is that infinite. We have forgotten. Before actually, the wave actually is formed now. The wave has forgotten the ocean. Wave is always inseparable from the ocean. It can never be separated, but the wave has forgotten the ocean. And wave thinks that it is real. So we think that the world of name and form is real, and the consciousness behind actually is not in our awareness, not in our experience. So we don't understand the infinite glory or infinite existence of our own being. And now we have become the finite. We have become the small. We have become conditioned. These concepts and all these notions of the mind makes it further conditioned. And through this conditioning, samsara comes into existence. Through this conditioning, embodiments take place, body after body, because mind is there. And so only when you transcend the mind, actually, you will be able to get back that infinite. For that, what you need to do, you have to drop all concepts, you have to drop your volition, you have to drop all these notions. And so yogis, what they do, through pranayama and through meditation, they control the prana, and by controlling the prana, by stilling the prana, and they still the mind. When the wind is stilled, the wave actually also stops. So by controlling the prana through meditation, and they control the mind, that is one technique. The jnani, a man of knowledge, a man of wisdom, he follows a different technique. What he does is, he will understand what is mind. He will reflect on the nature of mind. What is mind? Obstinate fancy. It has become a kind of habit with mind to cogitate, constantly thinks and meditates, thinks and thinks about the objects. That is only the mind. And then the yogi, the jnani, he reflects on the nature of the mind. He will slowly reduce that cogitation. He will ask the mind not to think about the objects. Don't objectify the world for me. And slow mind becomes quiescent slowly. All the notions, he will become free from all the notions, concepts, opinions, judgments. He will go beyond all conditioning, go beyond all identification. One after the other, layer after layer, you remove this conditioning, you remove this identification of the mind with the things of the world. and then becomes subtler and subtler and subtler. Then you will reach the stage of no mind. That stage of no mind is also called the state of pure mind. Now you have become sattvic mind. It's no mind actually. It's actually mind has also become annihilated. Mind has almost become dead. That is the state where you experience again the highest state of nirvana, highest state of bliss. That is self-realization. You have become the infinite. From infinite we have come, and unto infinite we go. When is the question? When you want to go? After 100 births, 1,000 births, 1,000,000 births? Or you want to be here in Maya forever? Choice is yours. When you want to get rid of the mind, when you want to get rid of the goblin, okay, a rebellious goblin, it is actually rebel. It's not easy, but actually not impossible. That's why kaschid viraha, you must be a hero. To embark on this journey itself, you must be a hero. The inner world is not a small adventure, a great adventure. Adventures in the external world, climbing Everest is fine. But conquering the mind, conquering the thought is still a greater adventure. You embark on this journey, then you understand that it's worth struggling for it, because you have got this precious human birth. With this, when you can attain the infinite, why you go for small glass beads when you can have diamond? The ultimate thing, nirvana, God, truth, consciousness, infinite existence, beyond death, beyond suffering. Why to go for the small, the worldly things? It is our birthright. You get it or you don't get it in this birth, secondary thing. But at least you will have the satisfaction. I have striven for the highest. I have made good use of this instrument that God has given me. I have not lived in vain. I have lived purposefully. Whatever the little that you need for basic necessities, you provide for that, and afterwards you have to be only on this sadhana. Okay, you're supposed to be. But what has happened to our world? Only creature comforts. More comfort, more comfort, more comfort for the body. But it's not the body that brings pain to you, it's the mind. What about the mind? Why don't you want to study the mind? This way in our culture we talk about swadhyaya. Swadhyaya means study this book. You need to study this. Here actually is the mystery. The mystery of the universe is locked up here. Turn attention inward and just see what is within you. Just annihilate the mind. Okay. Then the question, why did God create the world, will be answered for you. He didn't create anything. It's only an appearance. It's only a projection in the mind, the ghost. The goblin has projected the world for me. Now the goblin has gone. The world has gone. Only one existence. Homogeneous existence. Only God. Only truth. No blame attaches to him. It is my ignorance that made me suffer. Because of my ignorance, actually, I have become entangled. No blame to anybody. No blame to God. He has not created a wicked world. He has not created an imperfect world. No creation has happened. In fact, that is the absolute truth. But to make this statement, no creation has happened, it sounds very cruel. But in fact, that's the truth. Mind is unreal. So whatever that happens in the mind is also unreal. World happens in the mind. Something that happens in the unreal must be unreal as well. Does that sound logical? Right? It's logical, right? Something that appears in the unreal must also be unreal. So all the experiences of the world are definitely unreal because they are experienced in the mind. Mind is just a superficial projection on consciousness. Just drop the ego sense. You can do it through all these 4 yogas, the bhakti yoga, the volition. The ego sense is surrendered at the feet of the Lord, at the feet of your chosen deity. In karma yoga, all the action that you perform through that volition or through the will or through the ego sense, you surrender it at the feet of the Lord again. Or you do detached action, nothing of me, it's only an instrument, not me, not me. It's only the Lord, it is only the Lord. In Raja Yoga, through meditation and through pranayama, you control the prana and then you annihilate the mind. And in Jnana Yoga, you refuse to identify with the body and with all the objects of the world. Not I, not this, not the body, not the mind. So you reject the unreal and you get established in the real, in your own glory, in your real state. So, to regain that state is the lost state, the lost paradise, should be our objective in life. All other endeavors, all other struggles, worthless struggles, meaningless struggles, All this struggle is absolutely meaningless. So how better don't invest so much in Maya? At least some 10% of the mind, 15% of the mind at least. I know you are very deeply entangled. You just invest for truth, for knowing your own true nature. Life becomes blessed. So, janma mrityu chara dukkham anuyanti punah punah vimrushanti na samsaram pashavaha parimohidaha. Vimrushanti na samsaram. So the sages Vasishtha, Vishwamitra and Narada tell, they don't reflect. People don't think, they don't reflect. Why should I suffer like this? What is the source of suffering? What is this world? Why did God create it like this? If at all He had created it. Reflection, deliberating on the nature of things, the nature of the events, nature of the suffering. If you are really educated individual, we should be doing that. But we consider educated because we get a degree from university. And we consider ourselves educated, but not in the true sense of the term. True education means studying this piece of life. Swadhyaya. Studying this book. Invest more time to understand this book. The mystery of the world is revealed. The questions like, why God has created such an imperfect world, why He makes us suffer. All these questions will vanish only after the real experience. The person who is asking is also God only, but he doesn't know, you don't even, only God exists. All this duality, all this differentiation is fiction, is delusion. We are deluded now. We are deluded now so thoroughly and so totally. The only consolation is majority are in the same boat. That's the only thing. Majority are equally deluded, so we have the advantage of company. Right? Company. We get to use company, the world. We don't get the company of sages or enlightened beings in that number. At least if they had been 50% of the sages and enlightened human beings, then we would be thinking of it. But 99.99% of our group, okay, people who are in ignorance are deluded. So the teachings of these sages, they fall on deaf ears because of this. They are always a minuscule minority. The people in ignorance are majority always. That's the thing. So it is very important. That's why in our culture they talk about discrimination. Discrimination brings you to dispassion, and dispassion takes you to the truth. That's what the Vairagya Prakarana of Yoga Vasishta is all about. Everybody, one of you must read that. Wonderful, really, extraordinary. So we shall stop here for today. We shall meditate for 2 minutes before we disperse.
Om.